to the June 2nd meeting of the Finance Committee. I call this meeting to order. We need to add two quick things to the agenda. One is graduation costs, and the other is fiscal year 21 budget. So I need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
First item, second, sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Sorry.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes 4-0. Everybody's on the call. Gary, Todd, Kathy, and Joe. So next is the laptop lease agreement. This is in our budget this year for 3 through 5 laptops. So Ms. McLean.
Yes, so we've worked pretty hard to try to get a laptop lease that we could get through in a timely manner to allow us the ability to order the laptops and have the laptops for grade 3 through 5 in schools before school started. So what we've done is a 52-month lease. We requested quotes from several different financial institutions to try to find the best rates and try to find the best financing options. The one selected with the best rate was First Citizens. The way we're able to work this out, if you all look at, if you saw the actual payment schedules that I included in the agenda item, there will be an annual payment of $782,000. The current budget that we requested for capital was $709,000 was what we had allocated. The first year, we have 3 payments that we make. We won't have a payment due until October. It's kind of like when you buy a car. You don't pay payment when you buy a car. So we're able to work through this and get this through this year with the funding that we have. And we will make those adjustments next year to make that $80,000 adjustment in our capital budget next year, so that we'll make sure and have the funds when we have a full annual payment, because they're paid quarterly. So we'll have 3 quarters this year. We'll have 4 quarters moving forward. Does anybody have any questions? So we have a document that is similar to this that goes to the county commissioners, as well as a document that is an opinion from our outside legal counsel contracts. And so those 2 documents will go to them for approval on the 15th. Once we approve this, then it moves on. And then that way, once they approve everything on the 15th, we can try to move forward with our order, closing on the actual funding, and get the laptops ordered hopefully before the first, or right at the 1st of July.
So it has to go to the county, but it doesn't have to go to the local county.
Right. Doing a 52-month lease and working the numbers the way we've been able to do this. Jay Parker has done an excellent job negotiating the pricing to get it to a reasonable amount to where we could work this out to try to get it done as quickly as possible and not have to go to the local government commission.
Okay. So how much is the lease for fiscal 2020, fiscal 21? How much was the total amount of it? Because it's 3 payments in 21, is that what you said? $586.
586.
586. Okay, cool. And the county doesn't have to sign this resolution or adopt it or anything, but they have to adopt
No,
something.
they have a separate resolution similar to this. So we do ours, they do theirs with their seal and all that.
So I need a motion to approve the laptop lease agreement.
Motion to approve, recommend approval to the full board.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Wish I could get 1.65%.
I know, right? That's awesome. Okay, that's 4-0 to recommend to the full board, and I believe it's on the consent agenda tonight. Consent, I think, right?
Yes, it is on consent.
Okay, the next thing is graduation costs. I wanted to have a conversation about graduation costs. Typically, our high schools use money from graduation ticket sales and prom sales and things like that to pay for graduations. A lot of that is, or most of that is not happening this year. So I'm worried that some of the schools may have difficulty in paying for the graduation costs. We have to rent chairs, stages, things of that sort, maybe paying employees and things like that. So I just wanted to have a conversation if we could come up with for the schools to help offset most of the graduation costs.
So I'm currently working through trying to finalize some of our budget for this year, making sure we've spent what we can from our state allotments. One of the things that might be an option could be some of the relief dollars. I'm still working on child nutrition to see how much money they're going to need for us to, they may take up the majority of that, but if we can work out maybe helping the schools, maybe based on need, we'll work with the schools to assess what their needs are, and I'll see, I'll keep working the numbers to see what we might be able to afford.
Okay.
So
We're gonna, sorry, Gary, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so we're going to have to reach out to the principals and they're going to have to come up with their budgets for this stuff ASAP, correct?
Well, we have the ability to look into the school accounts to see what maybe they have in some of those, and then facilitate some discussion with them too, just to see what we're still working through what it's going to cost for rentals and things like that. So we really don't have any hard numbers yet, but we're estimating and working through some of that. So we could definitely work with those individual schools to try to see what we can do to assist.
Well, I guess that was my question. Are you having each individual school see what they would need to do it and arrive at a budget, or you're doing it in your office?
I think it has to be both. I think the principals have to look to see what they have and what their needs are next year. And I know they get another budget and more discretionary funds next year, but I don't want to put any hardship on principals to get this done for the graduations that are coming up. And I don't know what the cost of security is going to be and all that kind of stuff. So I want to make sure that they're not going to deplete. There's some schools that have a lot of funds still left, and there's a lot of schools that don't have a lot. So I just want to make sure that we are taking care of that situation, so that all the schools' graduations can go off the same way.
I agree. You might need to look at things like buying a couple gallons of hand sanitizer. You might have to buy water so that everybody stays hydrated. I mean, everybody, yeah, who knows?
So I guess I would ask Dr. Houlihan to have Dr. Bays to talk to the high school principals and what they're thinking costs are going to be, and they can talk with you and Ms. McLean, and you guys can get back to us on where we might be with that.
That is all, absolutely. That is all in process. I had a briefing with Dr. Bazin about graduations yesterday. I'll be updating the full board kind of on where we are. So absolutely, we will make sure that our schools are taken care of.
Okay, I appreciate that. If you could just update us on where we are when we get closer to it, I would appreciate it. Does anyone else have any questions on costs for graduations? I mean, I would assume that they're got to be around $8,000 to $10,000 or somewhere in that book just to get everything done. I don't know we haven't seen what the graduations are going to look like from a guidelines and stuff like that, but are we going to be handing out the graduation booklets like we normally do, because that costs a lot in and of itself. So I just want to make sure we're good. And I know that we put down deposits for the Winthrop and the Cabarrus Arena for this year, but I assume those will just roll over to next year's graduations as well, right? Or do we get that money back, or how does that work?
Last I had heard, we had not made a decision to request those funds come back. I believe that we were letting them roll over to the next year so that we don't have to pay it again.
Okay, that's what I thought. So they're out that money already this year. So, okay.
Yeah.
I won't beat that anymore. So the next is fiscal year 21 budget. Just to let everybody know, Dr. Houlihan sent an email out today with information from the county's meeting last night. It's from the county manager with respect to our budget. There's some questions that we have on the spreadsheet or on the sheets that they gave us in the PowerPoint. So we're going back and asking that, but we're going to have another meeting probably this month or the next 2 weeks to discuss what they're going to do with our budget. The county manager's proposed budget talks about us being flat. So the which includes, not really flat, includes the 3.2% increase in the penny value. So we would get about, what, $3.8 million over last year. But we have some questions on the capital part of it, so.
Could I ask a question before we start into the actual budget?
What?
Could I ask a question before we get into the actual budget items? Shauna, were you able to respond to Ms. Lancaster's questions?
I'm working on the responses for that right now. There were a few outstanding items that I had related to some of the utility cost savings and transportation savings. I wanted to make sure I had good information on that before I responded. So once I send those responses to back to her, I will make sure that you all receive a copy.
Thank you.
Okay. Transportation questions? Oh, the bus drivers and the.
Yeah, how much we might save from not having
Yeah.
to take kids.
Yeah.
But I would encourage all the board members and the finance committee members to take a look at what they sent us for next year, for fiscal 2021. There's some interesting things in there, but we're going to continue to walk through it. And Shauna's been in touch with their budget manager, so we'll see where we go.
Are you, is this a good time for some specific questions on this information?
Sure.
Shauna, in going to, what is this, page 2 of 8, I find it interesting that they categorize us in indirect support and direct support. If I am looking at this correctly, they are projecting for the next fiscal year, there will be a reduction of some 12.9 million in debt service. Am I assuming that correctly?
I'll have to verify that. That's what it appears to, I mean, that's what they're showing the difference to be, was 12,983,833 was the change over last year.
Okay.
So that's
And-
a 25% reduction to their debt payments.
Right. Under direct support, am I correct to assume in this that they are reducing our capital request by some 3.333 million? Pay-go capital, I assume that's the, looks like the current year capital request.
They have a pay-go. Blake and I talked about that a little bit today. They have a pay-go category where they fund at the county level, when they call pay-go capital, that's cash funded capital.
Uh-huh.
So they're not doing a bond or.
Right.
So
But that's our capital request for this next year, and they've cut 3.3 million out of it.
It
right,
says
they're
it's
showing a proposed of $18 million because they have, right. We already knew there would be a reduction for true up and some of those other items. So that's part of all of that.
Okay,
and we
but
did
even,
the smart boards, which was about $1 million too, so.
okay. But didn't we take that out of our request, or was that in the smart boards that were included in our original request?
They're part of our fiscal 21 request, but they were in our fiscal 20 request.
Okay.
So there's just that difference in funding. Mhm.
Yes.
They have 2 items here which I do not know what they are. One is a transfer to debt reserve fund, which was reduced by $3 million, and fund balance contribution. These items were made in last year's budget and are omitted from this year. So can you explain what those items are?
She may not be able to explain them.
Yeah, those are still some items that I've got to get clarification if this is just some of the fund, how they account for some of the funding, or, it may
Gotcha.
not be directly related. Some of this has to do with how they fund our request.
Here's my overall, we'll not contribute those 2 items. That's 8.5 million. Maybe that's just the way, like you said, the way they do their accounting. If you take, which I don't agree that bond debt service is indirect costs. I think it's a direct cost because it's paying for school facilities. But anyway, you want to argue accounting or semantics. Overall, if you look at our budget and take into account the reduction in debt service, the overall expenditure on education in Union County is going down. Am I wrong in making that statement?
I don't think that that Shauna and staff has had a time to look this over yet.
We just
but
got this afternoon.
Right, I think we need to get back together and talk about this because we have a facilities committee at 4:45 too. So.
All right. I'll let that statement stand until you correct me somewhere along the line where I've missed something. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Hey, so does anyone else have any other questions?
I don't.
Yeah, I need a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody. Sorry it was so quick.
Shauna, I'll just email you some questions. You get